Whoa, Sony is finally going to take on Xbox Game Pass, according to Jason Schreier on Bloomberg. This is wild. Oh wait, Jason has some extra info on Twitter. Service expected in the spring. Okay. Will likely retain the PlayStation Plus branding. Okay, makes sense. Don't expect Sony to include its big new games day one like Game Pass does, but the expectation is a stronger offering than PlayStation Now. Okay, then it's not really a Game Pass competitor. Like, the full Halo campaign is launching this week on the service, which is pretty crazy. Starfield, Hellblade 2, Redfall are all coming next year, and likely more games. Okay, sure, it's still an interesting step for Sony. Let's look at what they actually have to offer. We also got some news about the new Bioshock and more Game Awards rumors. But first, Spartacus. That's the code name for this new project, which in short basically merges PlayStation Plus and PlayStation Now. And this was inevitable, like Xbox has been doing this for a really long time now with Game Pass Ultimate, and I don't know anyone who's paying a monthly fee to play mostly older games via PlayStation Now, so it makes sense that they are kind of getting rid of that. But where it gets interesting is that this new service, which combines the two, will have tiers. The first would include existing PlayStation Plus benefits, so I would imagine it's basically PlayStation Plus as it is today. The second tier would offer a large catalog of PlayStation 4 and eventually PS5 games, which basically sounds a lot like what PlayStation Now is doing right now. But the third tier is the most interesting one. The third tier would add extended demos, game streaming, and a library of classic PS1, PS2, PS3, and PSP games. Okay, that's quite a lot. I mean, that was my immediate reaction, but when you really think about it, it is the Nintendo way of giving you access to older games you maybe already paid for before, instead of what Microsoft is doing, where games you already bought on older platforms still work on your new Xbox Series X. Nintendo recently launched the expansion pack for their online service, where if you pay more, you get access to N64 and Genesis games, with more titles getting added over time. I hope Sony already has a way bigger library on day one. Also, PS1, PS2, PS3, and PSP. Where is the Vita? I mean, they already made a lot of these games playable on the TV for PS Vita TV, so would be kind of strange if they're not bringing some of them over to this service. But yeah, many questions still remain though. Is this native? Like, can we download those games to our PlayStation? Or are most titles going to be streamed like they are on PlayStation Now? But I personally think though that the extended demos and game streaming part is more interesting about this tier if we're talking about it being a Game Pass competitor. And maybe you remember this from the PlayStation 4 reveal event all the way back in February 2013.
You're checking out the latest titles and you see something that catches your eye. No problem. You can simply press the X button to hop in and start playing the game. Now, in the past, not all games were available, and the ones that were had to be kind of the light version, where they had been edited down so that they could be downloaded reasonably quickly. With Gaikai in the PlayStation Store, you'll be able to instantly experience anything that you want.
This was always the plan, but it never happened for as far as I know, which on one hand makes a lot of sense, because I think some publishers, like Rockstar recently for example, would not be happy if people could try their games before they bought them. Would still be super consumer friendly of course, but there are also other issues, like some games only get good until later on, and you would stick with it if you paid for it, but if you got only 1 hour to try a game and did not like that, you will likely never touch the full product. And if this became a real thing, I think we would see many developers spend a ton of money and effort on that first hour, which would then not be representative of the entire experience. So yeah, a great idea on paper, but not sure if it would work in practice. My point mostly is though that Sony already had this idea back in 2013. Like, the technology was likely already there, especially right now. What if, with this tier 3 subscription, they do give these extended trials for many of the big new games that they got a partnership with, or for their own games like God of War Ragnarok. And Microsoft and EA are giving a week early access to their biggest titles through subscriptions and bundles. If Sony does that for their tier 3 sub as well, like if I could play Horizon Forbidden West 1 week before it came out, I would sub in a heartbeat. And interesting is that Sony has actually already been toying around with these trials before. In the UK, we got a trial for Death Stranding and Sackboy in October, so very recently, where you could download and play Death Stranding for 6 hours and Sackboy for 5, almost during the whole month. So I can see them totally expand this with their new subscription service. But the reality is that while they will likely see some short-term gains from the PlayStation player base that is already there, like I right now only pay for PS Plus but do not pay for PlayStation Now, if they merge them at these trials and bonuses for the games I already play, then I might pay more per month. So I totally think they will be able to get more out of their existing players, but the fact remains that the offering from the competitor is way better, so I don't think they will win over a lot of new people. And I of course made fun of it during the intro, but that was my reaction. When I saw the headline, I was like, are they really going to do it? But no, and it makes sense that Sony right now is not going to put their $100 million plus productions on a subscription service. And I think a big part of this is also that you can finish most of these games in 1 week and then never have to touch them again, while Microsoft with Halo and Forza, for example, has plans to add to those games for months and years to come, so you're more enticed to maybe stay subscribed. And sure, Microsoft also has one and done things like recently Psychonauts 2, or the upcoming Hellblade 2 is likely going to be a 8-hour game. But most of their bigger games are already live services, while that's the complete opposite with Sony, so it just doesn't benefit them to have a subscription service right now. Another important thing is of course that we're talking about Microsoft here. If they lose cash on Xbox, they got a million of other businesses that are giving them hand over fist money, so they don't care, while Sony doesn't have that luxury. But I do think that with Game Pass getting bigger and Microsoft now able to release high quality games too, looking at their big portfolio, that it will get increasingly difficult to ask $70 or 80 euros for one game. Like sure, I think you and me will keep buying the next Spider-Man in a heartbeat, but these titles need mass adoption from people who also only play a few games a year, and they might be more inclined to go for a cheaper option. We're already seeing that right now with the free-to-play games like Genshin Impact, Warzone or Apex Legends. They're having a bigger budget and more people working on them than AAA full-price games these days. Why make a guess and pay $70 on an entry fee for a game that you don't know if you will like, if you could also just play the safe bet, the free game you know and love, that has the same quality content. This generation is going to be very interesting, but Spartacus just feels like a small step into a new direction for Sony. I am curious though, what if for example a game like Outriders, which is day one on Game Pass, will that then also come day one to PlayStation Plus or whatever they're gonna call it? Or will it be like a true streamer wars going on where Microsoft is like, yo, Back for Blood, wanna be day one on Game Pass? Then you cannot go to PlayStation Plus now. We will have to wait and see. Of course, I'm curious to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. And totally, if you liked the video so far, then leave a like, would really help me out. Now, at the end of these Sunday videos, we of course go to my favorite Reddit page, the Leaks and Rumors one. We got some new Game Awards rumors, but first let's take a look at Bioshock. This rumor about the setting comes from Colin Moriarty on his podcast Sacred Symbols, and Video Game Chronicle confirms this rumor as well, that they heard the same thing. So I think it's likely correct, but of course still take it with a grain of salt. They say that the game is set in the 1960s in an Antarctic city called Borealis. The game still has connections with the older Bioshock games, and it's seemingly planned for 2022. Only that part, I'm like, okay, sure, maybe it's planned for 2022. I don't see it happening though, because they really announced their studio in December 2019. That is when they were hiring like crazy. COVID hit. I think that's too ambitious, but would love to be wrong. I think it's 2023 if I had to bet. But yeah, they could tease already during the Game Awards on December 9th. I think that's possible. I actually joked about that last week, but we could see it. Another thing that I talked about in my video, which I will link to at the end of this one, was Hellblade 2. It was announced 2 years ago at the Game Awards. I think we will see gameplay because, yeah, that seems like a safe bet if it's coming out in 2022. So we actually got Jeff Grubb now on Reddit here saying that he also heard about Hellblade 2 and he's putting Avowed, the new Obsidian game, which I'm really curious about, in there too as a potential candidate for the Game Awards. Also Crossfire X, like a huge multiplayer shooter that are also doing a single player like component with Remedy behind Control and Alan Wake. It was planned for 2021. We haven't heard anything since. They're now teasing something for next week, which would also be the Game Awards. So maybe we see something like that. And let's not forget, like, let's not get too crazy. Game Awards are not E3. Not every, like, hope and dream will come true. So I'm not gonna talk about this 4chan Sly Cooper rumor. I now did, but I don't believe it. Let's not believe that. I always said with Sly Cooper, I believe it when I see it. I don't think the series is big enough to come back, but I would love to be wrong again. Yeah, there is a rumor about that on the Reddit. But again, I don't think that's true. Although I think that Hellblade and Crossfire X, Avowed, and yeah, those I think are true. I would say Bioshock is 50-50. But yeah, we will see. By the way, this week is Halo's launch. We will be doing things with the single player. That sounds kind of weird, but we will be making content about the single player. It's more open world, so we will at least be streaming it, making videos likely about it. So look forward to that. We got some other content, of course, planned for you as well. And I mean, let's hope we get that Horizon trailer during the Game Awards. Then I'm already a happy man. So I think that seems likely, but we will have to wait and see. Subscribe, of course, for more of these Sunday videos. And totally check out that previous Sunday video with more dedicated Game Awards predictions by clicking on the screen. For now, I'll speak to you in the next one. Goodbye.